Terrific. Here we are. It's July. It's the second half of the year already. It's hot. I'm Mark Bernstein, the developer of Tinderbox, and this is the Tinderbox Meetup. And this is a very special Tinderbox Meetup because today we're going to have Eric, pardon me, Boehnisch-Volkmann from DEVONthink, which has long been the one of the three pillars of the Artisanal Software Festival, and is probably the other application most responsible for building Tinderbox audience. And I sure hope we've repaid that favor in some ways.
Absolutely, you did.
So let's get started. So this is the Tinderbox Meetup with Michael Becker.
Hey everybody, thanks very much. So in typical Tinderbox fashion, what we do is we are here to talk about learning and knowledge management, and that we can do so with all of our tools. Again, DEVONthink is one of the core pillars of my Tinderbox experience and tools. So thank you very much, Eric. It's just awesome to have those two pieces coming together. Typically, the way we manage these meetups is we go around the room, new people introduce themselves. We then dig into topics or projects that anybody's working on, and then when we have a theme, we jump right into that. So I suspect today we're just going to jump right into the theme because we don't necessarily want to waste any time, and if we have extra time near the end, we can. Before doing that, however, I wanted to pop us all out to the forum really quick and to remind us of a handful of really interesting conversations that we've been having over the last 7 or 8 days or so on within the forum. So Brian P. had started out about a week or so ago asking about how does one build a mileage app. And I'd really encourage all of you to jump in there and check it out. What we have since done with Detlef's help and mine, we've built a little mileage calculating app for Brian. So in this context, for example, if I want to go from Comfort Inn Suites to say Hampton Inn, we have Tinderbox automatically generating, going out to Google APIs, pulling out and generating the mapping, creating notes that will then generate a matrix for us. We then can look at what our cross-tab driving matrix would be, and then we're able to then actually create trip reports and manage whole trip reports, to which Brian's now going to use and then turn around and submit to his accounting team for here's what I did for the day. So this is a really interesting product. We don't have time to go through all of those pieces today, but I encourage you to go through the dialogue that has evolved into this conversation, and it's continuing to evolve because I just realized this morning that I've got some regex that I need to contend with, and I'll be popping that up into the forum after later today. So that's one really cool thing we've been working on that's generated a lot of all things Tinderbox, APIs, regex, action code, export code, basically everything. The other project that's been going on for a few weeks now is Detlef's work on integrating with OpenAI and creating concept clouds, word clouds, and such. And Roger Alexander and I played with doing this about 6-7 months ago using a Python script, but Detlef has figured out how to do it with a curl interaction, and it's a lot more of a stable API, and he's just been evolving tremendously fast in this area, including like the pulling in of images and all of that. So I encourage you to check out that project as well. And then the final one I'll pull out, which has been really kind of interesting, is the use of dictionaries and lists. And so this thread has been really, really fascinating. So I don't know something happened this week between Detlef and myself where we've just been going back and forth and have had some really three really, really interesting conversations this week with Mark Anderson's help as well. So those are different discussions that I encourage you all to go check out. Before we dig into today's theme, does anybody also have any burning topics, projects, questions that they have? And maybe even starting with about DEVONthink. So for example, I opened up the conversation before we hit record asking Eric about just a tactical function of how do I do have DEVONthink like look for folders, and he's going to go follow up on that. Do we have any DEVONthink specific questions to throw out at Eric to help stimulate the creativity to start the call. If not, we'll hand it over to Eric in the community, and let's just get started. Maybe we can start with Eric just talking to us about, you can share your screen. What's DEVONthink? How do you see the integrations happening between here and now? Oh, go ahead.
Okay, then look.
No, we had a raised hand. Sorry, we had a raised hand.
So hi from me. So hello from Germany. Today, let me share my screen. I'm not. So how do you do that?
Little green button in the middle.
Yeah, here we have that. Okay, share that one and make this smaller.
Oh, by the way, too, I have a hard stop. So, Mr. Anderson, if you can pick up at 10, or Mr. Bernstein, I got to leave in an hour.
Okay, so let's go to this one. So everybody sees that DEVONthink logo or the Devon Technologies logo?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it seems it works. So I'm not as often in video calls that most of us have been in the last few years. So we are doing most of our internal stuff via traditional audio conferences. So we can walk around in a room. So hello from Stuttgart. So if anybody knows where that is, it's in the middle of Europe, exactly in the middle. So where there are no beaches and no sea anywhere. Okay, so I don't know how many of you are familiar with DEVONthink. So I've tried to find the elevator pitch question, what is DEVONthink? And the answer is it's the all-knowing trash heap. If you've ever watched the Fraggles, so that it is. So you can throw in everything and try to dig out everything that try to find an answer to anything you've put in there. And that is what some of our users said. So it's like to find on steroids and speed at the same time. So what is it actually? So it stores and manages information of all kinds. So you can throw in everything. So that means it's files. It's file-based. So you can throw in files, documents, Word documents, Markdown files, and bookmarks. So whatever it is, what you come across, for example, researchers, it's often used by researchers, people collecting huge amounts of information, you can throw in everything. If you use it for just your 100 letters you've written in the last 10 years, it's probably you're wrong. So you should see a doctor. That is not what DEVONthink is for. So most people using DEVONthink have between 500,000 and 1 million documents in there. So that was that. So as you are all Tinderbox users, you know how to manage information. So, and what it does, it helps you organizing that by applying AI since 2002. So I had to mention that. So we were first to the game, not last to the game. If you think of the Finder, you have all these files, and then now you can have the AI and ask it not questions in the way of GPT does today, but you can have it like find connections between documents, find documents that are similar to stuff that you have. Or when you have more in your databases, you can have DEVONthink, or let DEVONthink classify documents for you, like sort it into a group where it most probably belongs. It can auto tag things if you want that. So what it also does, it offers a lot of tools for working with the data. So it's meant as a workbench. So you put in for example, Markdown documents, and then you can actually edit them in DEVONthink. It has Markdown editor, plain text editor, RTF editor. You can do some basic image editing. You can annotate PDFs with all the tools you want. So you don't have to leave DEVONthink for that. But if you want to, you can do so. And that is where, for example, Tinderbox comes in. So you can just, we come to that later, but basically you can have stuff in DEVONthink and then work in Tinderbox with it or link to it. And that is interesting for many people. It synchronizes the data safely and security between locations, means between multiple copies of DEVONthink on your various Macs. Like one gentleman is sitting in a library, like I imagine 10 Macs behind him, all synchronizing the same data. And also to your iPads and iPhones. So we have people who want to carry their document collection with them, and it needs to be compatible on all these devices. And one example is lawyers. I don't know how the situation is in the US, but at least here in Germany, the courtrooms are usually isolated from the rest, so you can't use your mobile phones. So when you use some online thingy for your documents, you're probably out of luck. So you need to bring your documents with you to court or not, or you don't have them. Similar, like I myself, I'm a private pilot. I keep my documents in DEVONthink and take it with me up into the air, and because there's no internet up there. I've tried it. And it's safely. Safely means it's or securely, it's all encrypted. So when like lawyers, they don't want their documents be leaked. So probably then you want to have they also encrypt it in transit. And then it automizes workflows, so that we have seen that already in the opening. So automation is also a big part of DEVONthink. So whatever you can want to do with documents, you can probably do it in DEVONthink. Maybe you can do it with a Finder, but it may be easier in DEVONthink. So basically, that's the rough thing. I will also show it. Now, I just want to give you a few tips how to get started, because it's like Tinderbox. Sorry, Mark, it's a bit intimidating when you open it for the first time. So it's just, you're buried under a heap of tools and things to do. So, okay, here's the pilot thing again. The first question is, what kinds of data do I have? And is there a logical structure to it? When you build databases, DEVONthink organizes things in databases. You can have databases like private stuff for this business stuff. Or if you are a professor, you could have a database for each lecture you're giving. For a hobby, my golfing database, my pilot database, my chess database, whatever you want. So you can separate that into spaces or other subjects, whatever your research subjects, for example, or if you're a student, again, yeah, that is one question to ask. And the next one is, where do I want to work with my data? On which devices? So you can have databases that you sync to your iPhone because you want to carry them with you, and others you probably don't want to have with you. Then another question is do you want to use your data outside of DEVONthink? We will see that with Tinderbox. Do you want to have your documents in Tinderbox, or do you want to have them just in DEVONthink? The good thing is with Tinderbox, you can have both. And then the Windows and Linux question, mostly local Windows. Is that a question? Is that something you need? And if yes, how can you accomplish that? So we have, for example, a web server built in that you can use to bring your Windows friends into DEVONthink.
Hey, Eric, I have a super tactical question for you.
Yeah.
So this idea of having separate databases for, say, research and such is pretty cool. What's your strategy for balancing the general inbox of DEVONthink versus having a dedicated personal database? And what's the right way to orientate to that?
There is no right way. So the idea of the global inbox was to actually have something like in the GTD metaphor, to have something you can throw in everything that comes across you during the day. You just throw it in there, and when you have the time, maybe at the end of your workday or on the weekends, you can sort it from there into the proper databases. That's the idea. If you are super organized and you use like our clipping tool, you can just put it directly into the proper database. And every database has its own inbox. So The idea is then it trickles down. Like you put everything in a global inbox, then comes the end of your day, say, oh, these are all invoices, move them over to my accounting database, but I don't have the time or don't want to spend the time on actually sorting that into my carefully crafted structure. So just throw it in the inbox there. And then if you have the accounting day, then you can just organize all that stuff into the proper folders or groups.
And where does the global inbox live? Is that a file somewhere that one can import in, or is that?
Yeah, it's always a file. Or technically, databases are packages in DEVONthink. Usually, you store them in either in your user folder, in databases, or in documents, or wherever you want to. The global inbox is also a database that lives in application support.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And
So,
we've got
and
our first question.
Yeah, that is, by the way, the only database that has a unique and non-unique identifier. So it's the same on all your devices. Whoever is in your sync cycle, they all have the same global inbox. All other databases might be separate.
And we have our first kind of community question, which I think is a really good universal one in general. So Frederick's asking us, I don't understand why I need DEVONthink at a high level. Carrying flight plans doesn't need much more than the files on an iPad. So again, I think it's that distinction between the Finder folder in an iPad versus the DEVONthink analysis, research, and all of that. So can you make that? Can you kind of review that for us?
Yes. So on the Mac, it's a little bit different on a Mac and on iPhone. And then there is the question about how much space does a file use on the Mac, which has become much more complicated now that we have this new Apple filing system. So on the Mac, when you put in a file in a DEVONthink database, two things happen. The file is moved or usually copied into the database file as package, which is just a file. And then you have the database structure itself. That is the AI structure that we built. So the index, it's basically like a full text index with all the metadata, maybe a preview, etc. That's all on top of it. When you now switch on Spotlight indexing, like you want to search your database also with Spotlight, it's also added to Spotlight. Means the full text of the file is added to Spotlight, or as much as we can, at least. So basically now the file is 3 times as large because you have it in DEVONthink, the file itself, you have the metadata and the full text index, and you have the Spotlight index. On the Mac, you see better what exactly where the space is used. On iOS, it's all mixed together. So we use a core data database, an SQLite database, and then a full text index based on SQLite 5, or SQLite full text search 5, FTS 5. So you have the file, you have the core data structure around it, and then you have the full text index on iOS, and then you have Spotlight indexing on top of that. And that is all mixed together in when you look at how much data does DEVONthink use on an iPad. And in DEVONthink itself, DEVONthink on iOS, DEVONthink to go, you see what DEVONthink itself uses for itself. That is what you see in its own under the question mark button. And then when you look into the data, into the usage statistics of iOS, it's all adding all that other metadata. For example, the file provider extension uses some space. The Spotlight indexing uses space, and it's all calculated into how much space does DEVONthink use. And some of this
those are some technical reasons, but what's the general user reason? I mean, outside of you could use Whodaspot as being called out as another means of searching files in a Finder. So what's that unique capability, that unique layer that DEVONthink's providing over my files? That's
on the Mac or on iOS.
Yeah, and I think you're getting to the good point. You get both across with DEVONthink, whereas you don't with other utilities. But maybe you can open up a DEVONthink file and share with us some of the magic of like the AI search and the near links and all of those things that that layer that DEVONthink brings on top of the learning intelligence that some of these other utilities don't.
Absolutely. I think that was Like, okay, let's do it here in the middle. That's no problem. So for those who haven't seen DEVONthink, so that is how it looks like. And let's get into a demo database. So on top of what the Finder does, as I said, you can have, let me move that over here. Let's take this. That's, for example, a PDF. Now you can just have all these annotation tools, just like you could do in Preview. Many of the tasks that you can do in DEVONthink, you can also do in other tools if you have a collection of separate tools. What you can't do is, for example, get a list of words in here, like related words that you could have. Like here is a WWF file. Now you have here other words that are related to WWDF. You have like diversity. You jump to that word in DEVONthink itself. You could put that into the middle. And no diversity. How do you got that? Okay, it doesn't. Oh, I have to search that here. Okay, anyway, but you can use other words. Oh yes, you can jump to other documents that have this word, and you can find other documents that also refer to that word, and so explore your data collection.
So just a pause right there. I mean, this is unlike, say, a Huda or something like that that's simply looking for a word. Because of DEVONthink's AI engine, you're actually not just able to find the word in a document, but then the association of that word with other documents and itself. And that AI layer is what's really unique.
Yes, that is what it's doing here. For example, you choose a document like this one, and you get here in this inspector other documents that are content-wise related to it. Like this is the Blue Planet report, but we have another copy of that. We have something else about the sea. And you see, this is obviously a lot of WWF stuff, but you get other documents somehow related to it, including a PR and marketing countries statistics, because it also deals with a lot of countries. But that is our own document. And you see other groups related to that, where it could also fit with a little score here. Let's try to find something else that is like NASA documents. What do we have here? We have like breaking news, like something like this. And now DEVONthink thinks, okay, this definitely belongs into NASA. I've put it into that. And it's a tag, NASA. Then we have astronomy, it's a feed, and it relates to something else. And we have other documents here on the right side also related to that could be in the same thing, or it could be related to the same thing. And now you can also dig into that and say, okay, there is something about, what do I have, space studies, GISS. Do we have more to that? And I can look for that. Either you just look for it, then you find something, and now you can dig from here again deeper. See, it's just like it's a search, but then you have all these AI capabilities like related documents, related to that, related to this, etc. And you can dig from here to there to there. So that is what it definitely makes it unique over the Finder. You can't do that in the Finder, at least not yet.
And what's the best way to get documents into DEVONthink? Is it all manual drag and drop, or is it watch folders, or is it, I mean, how does
everything? That is the integration part, yes. So you can drag it in manually. Then you can have all kinds of, you can have a watch folder. Like there is one that is created for you usually. That's the inbox thing where you can just save documents to, and then it's automatically added to the inbox. The global inbox, by the way, is here just a very prominent database. And then you have AppleScript. You can use AppleScript to get it into DEVONthink from anywhere. So wherever you have an AppleScript and something comes in, you can just file it automatically. You can have your own rules. You can just move it into the global inbox, whatever you want. And then you have a clipping tool. That is this little thing up here, where you can just clip something from anywhere. So just like this one, you can just record something. You can clip a web page, whatever is frontmost. You can print to the database, so it integrates with the print to PDF service. So it adds your little thing here, just like this one. Just let me show that. And you can just choose Save PDF to DEVONthink. So wherever you are on your Mac, you can somehow get it to or put it into DEVONthink. And on our iOS, it's basically the same. So we add ourselves to the share menu with the clipping tools, just similar to this one here. And it's integrating with the Files app. So DEVONthink to Go is a file provider. So it means it looks like a file system on iOS. So you can drag things from anywhere into DEVONthink on iOS, or move it in the Files app to your database, just as if it were just like Dropbox or iCloud Drive, and sync it to the Mac again, and then you have your AI tools again on the Mac. So that is also something that maybe you have that with iCloud Drive, but not in this size, and not as secure as DEVONthink has. So you have the data collection on both, or in all your places, and can use your tools there.
And others can jump in while they're asking questions. But are my questions subverting the flow to which you want to present, or are they good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So let's say we've got
when there are questions.
So let's say we've got documents into DEVONthink now. One of the things that you have is, and Tom Diaz is one of our community members, really put me onto this, the ability to do searches like, help me find, like my research, personal data store. So help me find privacy within 10 words of personal data.
Yep.
Right. So how do you do those kind of near other, and where does one find the documentation for understanding the syntax for that kind of searching capabilities?
Yeah, so the search language is quite extensive. By the way, these near queries, etc., they also work on iOS. Not all of them work, but many of them work. So let's try like this. We're searching content. We're looking for NASA near 5 words of asteroid. Here we have some.
And so what we're seeing there's every document that has the word NASA that's within 5 words of the word asteroid.
Yes, exactly. So, and you can add more to that, and say what could be with, like, SpaceX is involved somehow. Here we are. And it usually happens instantaneously. So on iOS is a little bit slower. On a Mac, it's almost instantaneously, depending on how fast your Mac is and how large your document collection is.
And do you have a link for us where we can see, like, where do we find those different operators? Where's the help for that?
Yes, there's the help. There is no help button here, but it's here in here. And in the built-in help, you find that in the documentation under appendix. And you have the search operators. You have everything you can do with the search, from wildcards, Boolean operators. You have the special operators that we have, like you have optional terms. You can say term 1 to opt term 2, which is like an end query, but the term 1 is required, the other is optional, but it ranks higher if it is present. So it makes the search better. Then you have the near, before, next, after. So you can just say, okay, this needs to be before something else or after something else. You have the traditional operators. That's basically that. And you have prefixes. So where do you want to search? Do you want to search just, this is what we can see here, basically. And this is also in the search language. You can search different fields, like the content, just the metadata, name field, name URL, the author, if you have a PDF, for example. From is something in emails, subject is in emails, You can search for tags. If it's marked, labeled, rated, you can give ratings. Some people rate documents for whatever reason. Labels is something like this. You can define your own 7 labels, just like in the old system 7 days, and apply them to documents, but you can also create tags, of course. Tags, by the way, are even nested. So some people have nested tags. You could have something like, say, spaceship, and that is a subtag of NASA, because you think all spaceships are NASA spaceships. Or like with dinosaurs, you have like a brontosaur that is also a dinosaur. You have dinosaur as a tag and you have brontosaur as a tag. That is a subtag. Whenever you apply that, like this is a brontosaur, it's also a dinosaur. And you can build your own taxonomy of tags as deeply as you want.
Okay, so
Basically,
sorry, there's just so much going on. This is amazing. So you've got this really robust tool that lets us store videos and images and pictures and documents, and you can tag them all, you can OCR them, you can convert them, you can pull stuff in and out and all of that, and that's super exciting. Now, one of the questions we have is, how does one then have DEVONthink play with Tinderbox? And what are your thoughts with that?
yeah, that's a good question. I wanted to ask it here too, because we have so many integration options, and we have been working with Mark on many things here, so that it works as seamless as possible. So, Mark, maybe you can tell a little bit more about how you would do that. One, just thoughts from my side is, one is, you can, for example, use item links. That is something we haven't talked about. So everything in DEVONthink is, you can copy an item link that is basically a special link that always opens the file in DEVONthink. So maybe we can show that here, how that looks like. It's always a DEVONthink item thing. And whenever you use that in other apps, like Tinderbox, it will jump back into DEVONthink to that very document. That even goes farther than that, just because I'm excited.
And by the way, before you move on there, when we talk about the documents on my drive versus in DEVONthink, are the documents being physically moved into a DEVONthink database? And so now do I have them twice on my hard drive?
If you wish so. If you wish
or not, how does that work?
Technically, we think it's best to have the file only in DEVONthink, because then you have just one copy of it. You can move it out of DEVONthink at any time. So let me just show that for the paranoid. So you can just drag that out at any time. It's a PDF, still is. It's even if DEVONthink explodes, why ever it should do that, you can show that in the Finder and it's still a PDF inside the database package. So you can see that that's a database. There's a files folder and there's the file. So if we cease to exist and DEVONthink no longer launches, you can still dig into the database and get to your PDF. You can also do one thing that is different. Let me see if I can demonstrate that. Do I have a file? No, I have no file I can demonstrate that with, but maybe let's do it with this and drag that in like this. And here you have this is a file that is, you can maybe see a little Finder symbol here that is actually in the Finder and it's just indexed in DEVONthink. So you can keep it outside. It stays outside, and DEVONthink just keeps a reference to it. In this case, if you want that. So you have two options: importing or indexing. Indexing means it stays where it is, but then you need to keep it that way. You need to keep it in that folder outside. Like if you have your documents folder, you just want to work with it in DEVONthink, that's your option. Or you put it into DEVONthink, you can delete the other copy, keep it inside DEVONthink, do your edits here, and then just link to it like with item links from the outside. So maybe that is what, Mark, where you come in.
Yeah. Right. I think I'm unmuted.
Yep.
We try to make this as simple as can be, and through a number of iterations, it's about as simple as I think you can hope it can be. The main thing is that you keep everything in DEVONthink, and when you need one of those things for your project, you can drag the item into Tinderbox. What's copied is the title of the item, the text of the item, if that's readily accessible, for example, if it's a markdown item or something like that, and the item link, which goes into a Tinderbox URL attribute that you can then follow to get the whole shebang. So drag and drop is the most common way to refer to a particular item. And that's what you normally want to do. It's like going into your folder of Xeroxes that you've been accumulating for months, and you want to refer to this one, so you drop it into your project. There is also a temporarily non-functional facility for watch folders, which in DEVONthink's case is intended to leverage DEVONthink's inbox, where you can set up a Tinderbox container that will constantly echo whatever is in a given folder, so that you can have a Tinderbox document that's leveraging the inbox of a particular DEVONthink project. That got broken in some operating systems in the last release, and we hope to get that fixed in the next. But for most purposes, drag and drop is what you want, or copy paste.
Yeah. So, and these item links, by the way, they work on both Mac and iOS, and they are stable across both platforms. So whenever you have like an item link in, say you add that, okay, Tinderbox doesn't exist on iOS, but if you copy like an item link into your calendar and you get a reminder or reminders or OmniFocus, and you get reminded about that document, you can just click the link, and regardless if you're on your iPhone or iPad or Mac, it will open the document if it is present in DEVONthink on that device. So obviously you need to synchronize that database to the device, but then you have it. And what you can also do, I just wanted to show that because that's new. You can also link to parts of PDFs now, like say this is important for you, then you can just get, where's that link, not linked to, copy selection link, for example, or copy page link. So you will get like a link that looks like this one that has additional parameters that let you jump right back to this very part of the PDF, or like an annotation. If it's like a markdown document, you can jump to a header. And that also works across platforms. So you can do the same thing on iOS and the same thing on a Mac, and they will also work stably across that. So when you drag that to Tinderbox, you will just, I guess you get just the PDF, as just a link to the file itself. But you can use this copy, the copy command in the contextual menu to actually get like a link to something inside the document where you want to jump directly to. Like when you use Tinderbox like in the Zettelkasten way, and you want to jump directly from this node directly to this part of a longer document. That's also possible.
Okay. All right. Others can jump in with questions. I've got tons, but I don't want to add on. All right.
So this is this is Jim Fallows. I have a question in turn whenever my turn comes.
Yeah, go for it, Jim. Mark can wait.
So I've been using DEVONthink for a long time and appreciate its tremendous power as a place just to put things, and then all the search functions you're saying. a very particular thing I mentioned in the chat that is stymieing me is when I go to a website, I want to capture the contents of the website. I see very easily how to capture just the URL. And the problem with just capturing the URL is if you're offline, you can't get the information. What is the approved best way to bring the content of a website into a DEVONthink inbox?
I guess I would use the web clipper. So let me open a new Safari window. So let's try something. I don't know what way we want to go, like New York Times maybe. And you see something like, okay, this is interesting for me. You can just go from here and use this. Either you go through the share thing, add to DEVONthink, or you use the DEVONthink plugin or extension that we have. And what it opens is here you have like the name, the URL, and now you can choose the format. And bookmark is just the link, obviously. You can choose plain text or rich text, which gets you a just text extraction of whatever you see. Maybe we should click that away. So, or you can use a web archive. Web archives, basically, they are a copy of the web page, including all the elements, the additional files that you need to render it properly. The question is that we don't really know the answer to is that something that Apple will keep around for how long? Because it's a proprietary format that only the Mac can read, and some of the functionality is already deprecated. It's not something that Apple really advertises, so we don't know how long that will stay around. Other ways are PDF. You can just clip that as a PDF. There's a one-page thing that basically makes a very, very long page, or you can have it paginated. And that is added to the database with also the backlink. So you have the link back to the original web page if you want to. And you have the clutter-free option that actually sends it to our server. But that is just in transit. We don't store anything. We just take that, run it through a markdown file that makes markdown of it and recreates like a web archive or a markdown document with just the text that it thinks is most important. So it cleans up. It usually works for some web pages that have a very weird structure. It might not work. So some web pages use JavaScript to dynamically build article lists or so, then it might not work.
And thank you for that. One follow-up. You're showing us this in Safari. Does it also work in Chrome?
Yep.
Good. Thank
Chrome,
you.
Firefox, other weird browsers, whoever takes a Firefox, a Chrome, or a Safari extension, they all work.
Great, thank you.
You can use it. You could easily even do it manually. So if you just like copy the link, you can also go in here and just add that yourself and then go there. That also works. And let me show you more methods, just you know how versatile the thing is. Like you take this link, you drag it over here. Now you have obviously just the link, which is not what you wanted. And then you choose convert to web archive. And now it's downloading everything it needs. And after a while, it takes a moment because the New York Times loads trackers over trackers. And here you go. Now you have a web archive that stays the same, even if the original page goes away.
Great. That is exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you.
So 1,000 ways lead to Rome, they say.
Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, I just wrapped my head around the fact that going back a ways, I wasn't putting things in DEVONthink because I didn't know exactly where they were going. So I have many of my reference PDFs, for which my sort of primary index at the moment is bookends. So bookends is linking to the PDFs on my hard drive. I've been for a long time thinking, right, I really should be putting them in DEVONthink so I can use all the wonderful features you've just been showing us. I assume that means that when I add them to DEVONthink, they go, as it were, into DEVONthink and then become part of my iCloud. Would that be correct?
Nope. No.
Right.
So what happens? Let me show that in the Finder, so you see exactly what happens.
And just to add, sort of in case it's relevant, at the moment the folder set that I keep the PDFs in happens to be in Dropbox for historical reasons, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. But it's this issue where there are a number of different cloud systems that potentially may or may not interact well with one another, so there may be extra steps one might need to think of.
Yes, that's the biggest problem. So that it all depends. If you need the files outside of DEVONthink, it's probably best to keep them in a folder outside of DEVONthink, and then just index them and use them in DEVONthink. If you can live with the fact that they are moved into a database, they are still files on your hard drive. Like, just that you see what happens. Like, this is the demo database, but technically it's a package, which is a folder that looks like a file. So you can double click it and move it around like a file, but you can just go into the package if you need to. And then you have, like, these are the AI files and other stuff. And then there's the files folder. And inside the files folder, there are more folders, and in the folders are, here you go. Here's one of these PDFs. So you move them into the database. You just don't have to deal with that. I'm just showing you there is still a file and it will stay a file.
Can you show the difference though between, say, the method of doing a watch folder, or like indexing a Finder and folder versus moving something actually in? Because I think that's one of the hardest. Mark's hitting a really important point.
Yeah.
For many of us, when we're thinking about DEVONthink, is really, where does the file go, and how does it get in there, and how do I how do I know the difference between something being indexed and something actually having been moved in? And that's that whole kind of abstraction of file management is confusing.
Yes, it is. So everything here in this database is actually in the database. It's in the database package. So I can show you that by simply showing that in the Finder, and you can see that is in the database package itself. So when you move the database, for example, to a USB stick, carry that over to another Mac, everything is in there. What you can also do is, of course, you can just make a folder, say, let's make a folder on the desktop and make it something project 1. So, and move something in there. So now we have this folder up here, and we want to keep it here because we need it in a different application that needs access to it all the time. For example, our development data. So we have development projects for DEVONthink and to go. That is an Xcode project, and everything needs to be in the Finder because Xcode expects everything to be nicely in a folder. What you can do is when you now just drag it in, there will be a copy made. Boom. Here we go. That is a copy of the folder. And it's now, if I check, it's really in DEVONthink now. It's in the database. So now you can work with it here, and you have a copy out there, but the copies are independent. So what you can also do is you can move that in, press Command and Option, or use the index command. Same thing is here. If you want the command type, that is more like import with that. So is there some import files and folders, index files and folders is this one. And now you can just choose that.
Right, but when you're doing that one, you're not actually moving it into the database, right? You're just doing an index to it actually being in the Finder.
Yes, so this is now, it looks as if it was in DEVONthink, but it isn't. That is why there's a little Finder icon here. And now you can just use it in DEVONthink like everything else. You can even sync that to your iOS device. And then you will have a real copy there because there is no indexing on iOS. for many technical reasons. But if you check here where the files actually are, here's, you see path is desktop project 1. For something else like this, the path, it begins with a dot. That means it's inside a database. That is the basic, the base difference between the two things.
Yeah. Okay. That's most helpful. It just quickly, if I index something externally, which seems to be probably the sort of the overcautious approach. So we'll sort of connect it up to Tinderbox, to DEVONthink first, and then move it. I mean, because I don't have any sort of problems about putting in DEVONthink. It's just it's sort of doing it in a stage where I don't break other things. Are there more features that? Is there more that DEVONthink can do if that PDF is inside DEVONthink as opposed to indexed?
No.
Okay,
basically
that's
exactly the
useful.
same. The only thing is you have to be careful when you now just move this project 1 folder away to some place where DEVONthink has no access to.
Yeah. Then
the link breaks, and then your structure here is useless, basically.
But I mean, for instance, in this case, it means that I can index all the PDFs without breaking all the links in bookmarks, in bookends. But I totally accept, and for those who don't know, that all these apps actually have a degree of automation, the likes of AppleScript and things. So once you've decided the direction you're going, updating all the links. So, for instance, what might have been a link into Finder could, for instance, be a link from bookends to a DEVONthink item. So apart from the fact there's some assembly required and a bit of work, it's possible to coalesce that. So thank you very much. That was the most helpful answer.
And then I got to run in 7 minutes personally, but so maybe you can demonstrate one thing for us really quick. Let's say you had a folder like your downloads folder, and you want to say every time I add a new PDF or video to that folder, import it into DEVONthink, and actually into the database, and remove it out of the downloads folder. How would someone do that?
Yes, that is exactly what Mark was talking about earlier. So there is, let me check how that works. I haven't done that in a while, actually. So because I'm the iOS person, but here's the folder actions set up. And so you can,
got it.
So yeah, then you have to confirm that.
How'd you get there? Sorry.
Sorry.
How'd you get there? How'd you get the folder actions set up?
That's a context menu and services.
Right. And so when I click on services, I showed you in the beginning of the call, that doesn't show up for me.
What you might need to do is there is a setup for this services menu thing. How do you do that? Okay. It should appear here for a folder, but it might be that there is something in settings that has changed. So this is, let me check if they changed something. Mark, maybe you know if they changed something, why it doesn't appear at this gentleman's in this gentleman's context menu.
Well, basic question: Can you sort of reinstall those? So basically, get the app to reinstall those. And I can also think that the other missing piece, and it might be useful for you to mention to us, is what sort of security settings DEVONthink expects to have. Because one thing that has got remarkably not good on Mac of late is the way that it's tightened down all sorts of security, and it shows you all sorts of sort of accept or deny messages one time only that often then just disappear before you've had a chance to act on them. And so it's quite easy, because you were distracted, to end up in a situation where the app hasn't got the security it wants, and it doesn't necessarily have a way to tell you. It doesn't know that you know, and you don't know that it doesn't know. So it would be interesting to know what we can check if we think our security is wrong for DEVONthink, that we can manually change in the service settings.
All right, so let's not waste everyone else's time on my personal nit. So now that I see it's possible, I'll go.
I've just found it.
I'll go figure it out until it's, now that I know the art of the possible is real, I'll figure it out.
I've just found it where you go. Just let me quickly show you. You just select something in whatever your app you're using. It doesn't matter. It's just a quick shortcut that to go there. Then you have under the application menu, you find services. And on the bottom, there's services settings.
Got it.
That jumps you directly into the setting app where you need to go. And now you have something where you can actually activate and deactivate settings for all kinds of things.
Yeah.
And it's probably where you also find the options that you want to activate or deactivate.
Glorious.
I would check
Mr.
here.
Erickson and Bernstein, I got to run, so I'm handing it back to you.
Okay.
Mark, do you want me to run? Okay, so I'm just going to roll back and see if there are any outstanding questions from I know the sort of chat's been going on in the sidelines.
Yeah, I haven't watched the chat at all.
No, it's difficult to do both at once and be present in the moment. Well, I see some hands up. If we go to Mark in the Netherlands next.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, I have two questions. The first one is you described that it is possible to either store a file outside of DEVONthink and create a sort of alias or indexed a folder in the indexed file in the DEVONthink database. Now, what happens if you make changes to the original file? Are these also, let's say, visible when you click on the DEVONthink file, or should you go back to the original file? That's my first question.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same file. So as the file doesn't exist in DEVONthink, it's just linked to by DEVONthink. Wherever you make your changes, it's the same file that you're actually working with.
Okay, all right. My second question is about other alphabets. I do a lot of research, and I must say I was surprised by the functionalities I discovered today in DEVONthink that I was not aware of. I do my research in the Arabic language. How do you have any more information about how you create the related word picture that you have created? Like how does that work? How is the selection made?
Okay. Technically, that goes, as I said, the DEVONthink AI goes way back to 2001 or 2, where we created it. Technically, it is a fast classification neural network that we're using. And from that, we are creating, whenever you add something to DEVONthink, there's the file is added, and then the file's content is added to the neural network, and connections are made between words, and how near words are together, etc. So relationships are built, and from that we create this picture. So we have words in there, and we know words are used very often together or in relationship to other words. And that is how the picture is created by, okay, this word, and then we have others, they have very strong connections because they're used in very similar contexts, for example. But we can't share the algorithm because that is part of the AI and hard to share.
No, I understand. Is it possible to make like a bigger picture than the one that shows up in DEVONthink? Like it's on the right bottom corner? Is it like to make
larger
it like
if you want?
Yeah, larger. Yeah. So it just shows down very small on the bottom.
Let's see how large we can make that. So related words. Where was it? So like here we have like climate is interesting, but you can't make it larger than that. So
okay,
that's
all right.
That's basically the size you can get. And here you see the connections, the larger the dots, the stronger the connections. Sometimes, depending on the document, also the lines appear stronger, like this one, that climate and change belong stronger together than the others. So you see from the word in the center, which we selected, you see there are direct connections here to, for example, there. and then it goes from here, and there these connections are stronger, etc. So you can explore that from here. It's the same, by the way, that we also use in Devon Agent, where we use the same technology on websites or web pages.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if we'll take Anthony next, and then Pascal and Peter.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Eric, for being here. Been a long time user. I have a really quick question. Are there any plans, or is there a way to for DEVONthink to read up metadata for images and display it? In particular, I do a lot of imaging work, and being able to see the metadata, either the EXIF data or the IPTC data, would be fabulous. And maybe it does it and I don't know it, and that would be great too.
It takes some of the data, but not all, as far as I know. So, but it's not an it has no special code for all these various kinds of metadata that you could have. I'm just checking, because we do some of that. If we have metadata, it will be added to this part over here with special properties. But apart from that, I guess you need to try out if your metadata is actually reflected.
Okay.
Of course, if you want to extract something for other cases, like you want to use that someplace else, you could use AppleScript and have like a watch group. So there are smart groups in DEVONthink that are basically groups with added AppleScripts that act on everything that fits the search criteria, and then you could use that to fill your custom metadata with something you are especially interested in.
Yeah.
So there might be better tools. The more special the case, there might be better tools out there that you can just leverage to get what you want.
Yeah, that makes sense. Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Pascal.
Oh yes, thank you. Good evening. I use I save my Tinderbox files in DEVONthink. Might not be the right thing to do, but it just helps me. But I also keep some pictures and images that I would use for my presentation, for example. And the issue, obviously, that I have is because it's with Tinderbox, you've got to give the right location. For example, if it was on the Apple Mac, then you'd be able to link it up and it will just show on the Tinderbox file. But if I have a different, for example, if I was using a different computer when I've used my WebDAV to transfer all this particular video files onto another computer, I think I will not have a picture in this. It will not present itself, I think.
Where is that picture located? Also in the DEVONthink database?
It is, yes, yeah.
So, and the picture is in the DEVONthink database. You transfer that database also to the other Mac? What, with sync or some mechanism? Yeah. Then, and where does the picture where is the picture not visible?
In Tinderbox file. So, for example, if I open Tinderbox file onto a different computer, obviously you can't locate it.
Maybe, Mark, maybe the path is different because the path structure on your other Mac it's in a different folder, or the user account is differently named. Mark, that is a question for you, I guess.
We can't hear you, Mark.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yep.
For better or worse, we store the full path when we store a reference to an outside image. Of course, if you would store the image inside Tinderbox, which used to be scary and isn't nearly as scary anymore as it used to be, it would just move. But if you're referencing the picture outside, the full path is stored, including the volume name, which means if you have different volume names on your machines, even if you put it in the same place, the path will be wrong. You can fix this fairly easily by amending the volume name.
Right.
Yeah, if you have Macintosh HD on your desktop and my laptop on your laptop. You can just retype that URL to fix it.
Does that mean I have to retype it every time for every single picture?
In fact, if this is something you do all the time, then you can have an agent or an action figure out which machine it's on and substitute it in all the file URLs.
Right, I'm not that clever.
And if that's going too fast, raise the question in the forum. In fact, Michael Becker's done a lot of stuff on this, and it's much easier now than it used to be.
Or wouldn't it help, Mark, to simply name the hard drives the same on both?
Well, yes, but that could break all sorts of other things that you've got set up on the two machines, and or it might not. I frivolously. Years ago, I frivolously renamed our office server, and it didn't cause me any trouble, but everyone else was very deeply upset by this. So I recommend renaming hard drives with trepidation.
Right, thank you. My second question to you, so I store. I've lost the trail of my thought now, sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh yes, so with DEVONthink, so I used to create individual folders for different things, like different section of different areas of my work. I work in transfusion medicine, and now that I found that it's probably best to have all documents into one folder, but to just tag them and then use a sort of search function or use keywords to then group them together. So is that the right way to do it? Because I just feel I've tried to search what people do on the internet, on the forum of DEVONthink, and I couldn't find whether it was the right way to have several groups, as you call them, or should I have one group and put all the documents into one and then use his little keywords?
You can do it either way. So tags, technically, by the way, in DEVONthink are also just groups. So it's a different way to present them. As you have these replicants in DEVONthink, so an object can be located in multiple folders, just like my last name, I'm located in two parts of the phone book, one with B and one with V. So can documents be. And when you tag something, the tag is presented as a tag attached to the file, where the folder or a group means it's presented as being in the group. Technically, it's exactly the same, just a different way to present them. I personally, for example, I have an accounting database where I have, correspondence database. Every year I have a correspondence database. I throw in everything into the letters group. All the letters are in there and they are tagged, just like bill, invoice, medical, whatever. And then I use smart groups that go for these tags. And so I have like the medical smart group that has all my medical records, and I have an invoices smart group where all my invoices are, and it's automatically updated all the time. The only disadvantage is that up to this time, it's not reflected on iOS, because on iOS we don't have smart groups in these kinds of smart groups yet. Which is not an announcement, but it's obviously on the table that we have at least simpler smart groups also on iOS, like tag is something, so that you will be able to do that in the foreseeable future also on iOS. So yes, you can do that. Put everything in one group and use smart groups to grab what you need to fish out of the soup.
Yeah, excellent. Sure. Thank you so much. Really lovely program.
Before we go, just quickly before we go, Peter, I suspect part of the thing that plays into sort of having lots of nested folders is partly the mass passage of time. So those who've been playing for longer will probably have been told, don't keep thousands of files in one folder, because it made things run a bit slower. And so I suspect the degree to which you use nested folders is probably an indication of when you started using the tag. I think it's a lot more forgiving now than perhaps it used to be. And I'll allow someone with real knowledge to counter me on that. But first, let's go to Peter.
Okay, I have a couple questions. First, if you wanted to have your DEVONthink database stored on an external jump drive, which one of the alternate file formats would you recommend for that? Second question, is there a way to get a local copy of a YouTube video into DEVONthink so that you could play the video when you're offline down the road? And my third question is, if you've just been shamelessly letting everything accumulate in your global inbox to the point that it has thousands upon thousands of items in it, could you show us how DEVONthink could be used to break that up and organize it automatically using the AI?
Yes. So first question. The first question was, can you put it on a jump drive? Yes, you can. I would probably use the macOS file format, APFS, or the macOS extended file format. So not necessarily the Windows FAT. What is that? FAT 34.2? No, I wouldn't do that.
FAT 32.
Yes, I wouldn't do that. So that just format that for the Mac and use it for DEVONthink database. But it will become slower. So a jump drive, or I'm using a Transcend SD card for some stuff, it's much slower than the internal SSD, but you can do it. The second question was, can you put in a downloaded YouTube video? Yes, of course you can. You just have to download it. There are some excellent YouTube downloaders out there. Just get one of those. They're free to use, most of them, or just a few dollars. You can download them in MP4 format or whatever you have, and put that into DEVONthink. Of course, it can play videos, so that's no problem. And the third one was like, how can it help you when you have a global inbox with a few thousand items? Most of us have at some point in time. I, for example, around January the 1st, that is when I start trying to get into control of my inbox again. What you can do, just like, how can I demonstrate that here with my database? It's not made for that, but let's construct something quickly. Say you have temp. Now it's put something into here, some of this. I'm just trying to make a mess of things. And maybe some of this, and now a few of those. Okay, now this is your inbox with tons of stuff in there. Now what you can do is you can ask DEVONthink to actually classify them. There used to be a create group item. We have removed it a while ago because it didn't work correctly. So what you would do now is here go for the single things and check out. Let me move this stuff around here a little bit and see, where was that? Here it was. So now it's beginning to show me groups where it could fit, and you can then just simply move it there with move to, or you can just use this one. Where's the classify item? Classify to nature, for example. And now it's moving it to the correct folder. This one goes into climate change. This could go into nature again. This is probably, okay, it doesn't show me anything for that, or just classify. And then it will move things to other folders, like this one. And here you can always check where it would go.
Well, what if you don't have any other folders yet? You just have the one inbox or 10,000 items in it, and there are no folders, but you want to get it organized and managed.
Yeah, that used to be possible, but we no longer have this command because it wasn't really reliable enough. As far as I know, again, I'm the iOS person. It might be in there somewhere still, but it doesn't work. For example, here, it should appear here. Otherwise, you would begin to simply set up groups. like, okay, you know, you have some invoices and you begin to fill them manually first, and then the AI begins to catch up, and then you have it becomes better and better. And so if you just have a few groups with a few documents, it's already enough for the AI to actually deliver useful results for the others.
Okay. I don't know if Art's sort of connecting, if you want to ask a question directly, or I'll happily ask your question for you.
Oh, no, go, no, I cannot. Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, far away.
You up. Okay, great. Well, I had just 2 questions. Hi, thanks so much for this. Really an awesome way of sort of building one's database on a project basis. I can see all this potential. I'm just questioning whether if I drop in a Apple numbers or pages or Excel or Word document, the extent to which DEVONthink would be able to exploit the data in it.
Okay, yeah, it does. So DEVONthink uses the Spotlight metadata importer. So whatever Apple provides us through Spotlight is used. I can show you in a Scratch database, but this is actually a lot of weird stuff in here. It's just for testing. But it's here, files of all types, and we have some Office documents in here, and you see, like, here's a number spreadsheet, for example. And what you can see is you just get the metadata, but what you can do is you can view it. Here's the database, here's the spreadsheet. So it uses Quick Look to actually show it to you. Whatever Quick Look can do, you can do from here. Select text, etc. If that is possible, whatever Quick Look lets you do. It also indexes the text. So whatever we get through Spotlight metadata indexing, it makes it searchable. And what you can do is, if you want to edit it, you can say, open it with numbers and then work with it. So I'm doing it with this. This is obviously my pilot flight log. So I'm keeping that in DEVONthink in the aviation database, and open that in numbers for adding new entries, for example.
Perfect. Okay, great, excellent. And the second question was, if I have a PDF with which I've been working in DEVONthink, and then I drag and drop it over into Tinderbox, I guess I'm not sure who it is a question for, but which of the attributes in Tinderbox would be like tags, for example, would they carry over from whatever work I did in DEVONthink?
Mark, that is for you, I guess.
So I'm muted, fortunately. Yeah, they are. That I know that because I remember how much work that involved. But,
okay, great. Fantastic.
But for reasons that are not DEVONthink's fault. But no, the tags, content URL, content modified date. We're currently trying to negotiate some other magic involving detecting documents that have been moved into Tinderbox and then changed in DEVONthink, which is something that Tinderbox would like to know about, but that's magic to come.
Okay, fantastic. That's very promising. Thank you so much.
Just checking. Does anyone else have a question relating to DEVONthink and Tinderbox? So it looks like we've run the gamut, but that was certainly. I mean, I think others have commented in the chat. You'll see later, but it's been extremely helpful. And if nothing else, I suspect it will get a number of us who've been sort of had DEVONthink and been putting things into it, but not doing much with it, to actually make a bit more active use. It's all work that has to be done, but it obviously, it pays off when done. I'm just wondering, Eric, do you have any sort of last words or other thoughts you want to share?
Do I have some last words? Yes, famous last words. Reminds me of Monty Python, yes. But anyway, yeah. So last words is no. Thank you for being here. Thank you for asking all these great questions. They also give us great input into how we can improve DEVONthink and about the things we need to talk to Mark about, or what Mark gives Mark new ideas. I'm just going to say thank you. If you have any questions, there's of course Mark's user forum. Then there's a user forum on the Devon Technologies website. It's also very active. And here on the last slide, this is why I'll open that again. There's my email address. If you have any questions directly, you can send that to us. If you're a DEVONthink user, you know where to reach us as well. There's the support email address. There's Jim asking questions. And whenever you send us a support ticket, which seems to be a little bit more impersonal, the good thing is we can push that around to the correct person. So if you ask me something about the Mac, it might be that I need to push that over to Christian, who is the lead developer behind DEVONthink. And if it's something about the DEVONthink to Go app, then it's probably ending up in my inbox. So yeah, we are here. Whatever questions you have beyond this meetup. So
well, that's wonderful. We seem to have now acquired 2 more questions. So Mark, do you want to go first?
Yeah, just for people who are enjoying this wonderful hour and so, and thank you again, Eric, for coming on. It's been great. Coming up on July 22nd, we have John Ashwell and Bookends by request. The following week, I think we're going to have Scrivener with Keith Blunt. We've got Joel Chan coming on August 5th. And on August 19th, we've got Mike Rohde, the author of Sketchbooking Handbook. So we've got a whole bunch of great meetups coming this summer. So stay tuned.
Okay, Peter, do you have a last question?
Yes, I'm just wondering if there was any advice on using links to selection inside of DEVONthink versus using Hookmark to try to link to chunk inside of DEVONthink.
That fully depends on how you are using hookmarks. So we offer these links if you need a more versatile version because you're using hookmarks also in other places. And you're using the additional services that hookmarks bring, then you can also use the hookmarks. That is just fully dependent on your use case and whether you use hookmarks or its services or not.
And Detlef.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit late, but I was always struggling. I didn't jump too deeply into it, but maybe you, Eric, you can show us how to use DEVONthink as a RSS reader.
Yes, yeah, that is no problem. Let me try to get out of this presentation. So here we go. That was very easy because we have that right in front of us. Like for example here, that is in the demo database. I created a group called feeds, and here we have some feeds. Like this is our own feed, and here you have all the things. What you do is, if you need to go to a web page, like we have some here, let's open this one here. So, and you need, of course, the RSS feed from somewhere, however you get to that. And maybe we can try to simply copy the web page. And then you say, for example, new feed. And you put in a website, maybe it's trying to find, here it found the RSS feed of that web page. And now you have all your contents in here. But basically what you do is, wherever you are, you just choose data, new feed, add your RSS feed URL, and you're done. That's it. And if we are all lucky, and I'm not caught up in other things, we might have RSS feed updating and everything to go on the go as well.
Peter again. We have a few minutes left.
Yes. Could you show us the integration with Apple Mail? And if you bring mail into DEVONthink, can you get it back into Apple Mail if you delete it from the Apple Mail side in order to free up space in your Apple Mail inbox?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now let me quickly stop screen sharing so I can just check that I have a proper something to show where we can work with. Let me check that. So, and screen sharing again. Okay, share. So here we go. So for example, let's create some new group for email. And now you have multiple options. As we said on macOS Sonoma, the mail plugin will be broken. We had an integration directly into Apple Mail with our own commands in Mail. That no longer works, and Apple will not bring that back. But what still works are multiple things. So one is you can just take like news mails and just drag them over. So now we have an email message here and can read that just like we can in rendered form, in our own form, whatever you want to do that. But you can also drag that. Can you bring that back to mail? Nope. See if that works. But technically it should be possible to bring that over. Nope. It might be, that depends on Apple Mail if you can actually bring that back. Let me try that. No, Apple Mail doesn't want to take that back. So you can drag it into DEVONthink, but you can't drag it back to Apple Mail. That no longer works. You might be able to import that so that you drag it to the Finder and then somehow import that as a mailbox. That might be possible. Other ways to actually, now let's say you want to import email. We also have an email importer that is built into here that ties into Apple Mail, for example, and just will, after a few moments, begin to show you your mailboxes and can import that from here, where you have more archiving tools, like selection, what do you want to import from which mailbox, from where, etc., etc. So you can see that here, like then you have your, say, aviation, then it will show you your emails, and then you can just check that. Here, estimates of stuff. So, but these are the ways to get your email into DEVONthink. From Apple Mail, you can also drag that in from other email clients like Outlook. But it's not at all times possible to bring that back into Apple Mail. No, that is might not be possible. Actually, I did that in the past. I don't know why it's not working today. So I have managed to get emails back into DEVONthink, into Apple Mail.
Okay, well, we're coming up on our. I see some hands up again. Freddie, is it a quick question?
Yes, I think it could be, or it could be discussed elsewhere. I'm just thinking whether it makes sense to take a Tinderbox map that I've created with all the nodes and put it into DEVONthink and do something with it. And maybe that's a later discussion, but I'm wondering whether that makes sense and whether it would be interesting to explore.
Yeah, well, by all means, I see some thumbs up from Mark Bernstein, so probably that's one to raise on the forum, and we can tease it apart there. And as a very last one, Christoph, do you have a last short question for us?
Yeah, that's basically just a quick informative question. Working with PDF and making annotations in PDF. So I found that in DEVONthink, you cannot search for the text in the annotation. Maybe this has changed lately. And what happens then if an annotated PDF is moved to Tinderbox? Is any of that accessible as, like from the metadata as a search or so?
So searching annotations should be possible. That should be possible. Let's see.
It wasn't that maybe a year ago when I checked it, but
yeah, we could just make an annotation here What kind of annotation we want to make here? Let's add one. So what do we type on Tinderbox? So now it's here, Tinderbox Meetup, save that. Here we go. So it's definitely searchable.
Oh, great, wonderful. And that is obviously kept in some sort of metadata. Would that be accessible or like moved over into some information in Tinderbox?
Mark, that is for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark,
Is that better?
Yep.
Yeah. At present, it's not. At present, Tinderbox only indexes the mainstream. That might change, but we were worried about indexing too much noise, searching too much noise. I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, that would be really great because I'm working with a PDF, then making personal annotations. There will be all sort of digitally lost if they're just like graphic remarks on the screen.
Yeah, I'll take a look.
It's probably worth noting too that not all PDF editors are equal. So I know, for instance, a case in point is if you use Preview to make bookmarks, they're not actually stored in the PDF; they're stored outside. Whereas if you use something like Acrobat or a mainstream, normally a pay-for editor, if you want a bit more certainty. So just bear that in mind if you're hitting unexpected things where you think you should get something and you shan't. Right. Well, we're past the end. So if I may, I think I'm going to draw things to a close. And first of all, thank Eric very much for taking your time out of your weekend to be with us and for a really fascinating presentation and answering all our questions. I'll also thank Michael, who's not here, but will be tying all this up and processing the recording for people for organizing in the first part. So unless there are anything else, Mark, do you want a last word before we go?
For anyone who doesn't subscribe to the Eastgate list, please do drop by eastgate.com and sign up for further meetup announcements. We have some great things planned. And of course, give Tinderbox a try while you're at it, if you haven't already. And thanks so much for coming.
Okay, well, thanks very much. And if people will show themselves out, because I've got to leave this running for the and so Michael can pick up the recording later. So I can't close it from here. So you'll have to close yourselves out, and he'll crop the video stream down afterwards. So thank you very much to all, and goodbye.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye. Thanks so much.
Bye. Yeah.
Super thanks. Super thanks.
Right. Well, I'll let everyone else let themselves out. But if you just close out, and this session will be picked up by Michael later and edited, and he'll take out all this stuff.
I can actually reclaim host.
Oh, okay. That'll probably save him some. That might save him some disk space.
That doesn't necessarily mean that I can end the recording.
I mean, in the past, I think it's all right. He'll and I don't think he's overly trammeled for space. So if the thing's just running on recording.
Okay, thanks.
So, but thanks everyone. That was a really interesting session. I really enjoyed it.